It is MLB Live before lock time right here on Awesemo.com, Awesemo YouTube channel, Twitch, Periscope. Fellas, how's it going, man?
Doing good, Jay. Doing good. We're all over the place. I didn't know we were even on that many broadcasting platforms. Go us. Everywhere you can find your streaming content.
Exactly. Of course, if you can't catch us live, we're available podcasts as well. So plenty of places to check out here at Awesemo.com. Of course, we're here to break down tonight's slate of MLB action, 12-game main slate. Of course, we are sponsored by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Tell you a little bit about Yahoo later on here as we go through these games. But guys, we want to start off this show by talking about the pitching matchups. And obviously, Max Scherzer is a top option tonight. When we look at Yahoo, $54 on Yahoo, $11,000 on DK, $10,600 on FanDuel. Jeff, let's start with you. What's your take on Max Scherzer tonight?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's Scherzer, 32% strikeout rate over his last little bit. It is a hitter-friendly park that he's going to. So I mean, maybe start off with the negatives, right? He's going up against the Red Sox. They have a 4.18 implied team run total. It's pretty low for a game at Fenway, and but it's not like that low. I mean, so the ownership is coming at 30%. I still think it's a spot on this slate. Like we don't have it's Scherzer, and there's really not a ton of other talent to come pay up for. I think with Scherzer not being the overwhelming chalk, it's still a spot that I would be like overweight on. I'm looking at it as, it's a little bit more dangerous than normal. There's definitely some bats, and obviously with the Red Sox, and it's a hitter-friendly park. But for me, it is kind of a spot where you go after it. Some other players getting up really chalky. Scherzer, he's going to be chalk, but he's not going to be like that 60% owned or anything pitcher. It doesn't look like anyways. So, if that all stays the same, then it's just a spot that I'd feel much more comfortable eating the chalk with than other spots.
Yeah, totally with you on that, Jeff. I mean, you look at the board, and like you said, it's Max Scherzer. We've got Gallen up there. Heaney's okay. Wheeler's all right. But, you're taking a mixed bag with all these different starters at the lower price tier. So I'm happy to pay up for Max. And I'd honestly be over the field, I think, on both sides. Only, as my last update, top-ranked starter on FanDuel, only 19% ownership. So that's pretty easy to get up and above with all the pricing advantages over on that site. Only 10-6, not that much differential between him and Gallen. I like him a heck of a lot better. So I have no problem. I was crunching some lineups just before for the fun of it because I didn't anticipate FanDuel filling up so quickly today. But I capped Scherzer out at like 50%, and I would have probably rolled 40% of them at least over there. So double up on him over there. I like to play on DK as well. I think he's definitely the best pay-up option over there. So I'd be all over Scherzer.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
was just going to say, I think the point you made there is who are you going to pivot off of, right? So, that's all I was going to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's obviously depending on what slate you're playing on, whether, you're on a one-pitcher slate or a two-pitcher slate. I think that kind of plays into the whole Scherzer angle. Just looking at our ownership projections, Scherzer is on DK's our number 2 pitcher. Number 1 is Andrew Heaney for the Angels. Obviously, 7,800 on DK, so you're saving some salary there. And I kind of talked about this on the strategy show earlier today, me and Greg, and said that I kind of thought that if people were going to go with the Scherzer angle, their SB2 could be Andrew Heaney.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what we're going to see a fair amount of. That's a really reasonable price on him. So his 69 on over on FanDuel, 6,900. So I think I really like the spot in an ownership vacuum, but it's a big ownership price tag to eat for him. 36.5% over on FanDuel. That's a lot of Andrew Heaney for the public to be on, and I don't know if I'm comfy getting up and over that number so that I could be doing it at an advantage. As an SP2 on DK, only 35% ownership. That's more reasonable. It's a high number, but I mean, it's not like one of those 50, 60% owned SP2s. He's got the talent. It's a very good matchup. 23.4% strikeout for his career, 6.6 walk. He does need to avoid the home run a little bit, 1.50 home run per 9. But doing all right. His Ks are down a little bit from 28% last year to 24.8 so far this year. But he's allowing a little bit less power, although the quality of contact numbers are not tremendously encouraging. 24th percentile on exit velo allowed, 18th in hard hit rate allowed. So allowing a little bit of contact, 27th percentile overall on xwOBA. So not the greatest numbers, not the greatest performance so far this year, but I think at that price in this matchup, we can definitely roster him, and at least around where the field is.
Yeah. I mean, it's just for the price, especially on DK. I mean, under 8K, going up against the Mariners too. I mean, it's the team who just they've been pretty bad for the most part. There's a little bit of power there you have to worry about, but I think Heaney is a pitcher too. You look at his stats, it kind of just like maybe a little bit unlucky thus far. It does feel like, maybe a little bit of positive regression. He's been out there for like over 100 pitches or close to 100 pitches last 2 starts. Don't have to worry about that. He's a big favorite at minus 185. I'm looking at the last time. The ownership's up there. And talking negatives and positives, I mean, there's a lot more options down, especially on DK. I just have there open right now. There's more options down there and cheaper too that I think probably similar upside for GPPs, but again, talking like what is the optimal play here? It's pretty hard to make an argument against it. So I really don't even mind eating the chalk here as well. Obviously, though, for GPPs, he is going to be a guy you can pivot off of, in my opinion, because there's cheaper players. It'll get you more exposure to bigger stacks. So. Yeah,
and like what you said with, is it the optimal to put him in? Probably. It's probably, and if it was a basketball lineup or if you're playing cash, that's probably your move, right? If it was a basketball lineup, that would be the right price, right guy to put in that spot. We're not playing basketball though, right? We're playing baseball with a ton of variance. So yeah, we do want to look for other spots on the boards, particularly in GPPs. One I was just going to throw out there, Geoff, and I'm interested in what your take is, because it's not a guy I really love, but Alex has him ranked pretty high, is Corbin Burns on DK. He's Alex's 5th pitcher on DK's tool and drawing roughly half the ownership that Heaney is at only 4% lower probability of being a top 2 guy. What do you think of him over on DK?
Yeah, and I mean, Burns is a guy too who just let me pull up my thing here.
Sorry.
Well, I'll Geoff, while you're looking for that, I'll mention something because someone had asked a question about if you don't go Heaney SB2, who you go with, and the guy that I was going to mention is Burns just because of the matchup.
Sorry, yeah, I had.
It's a good matchup against the Pirates.
I forgot it was 8,100, which I had my 7K range open. I'm like, where's Burns? But yeah, he's right there. Yeah, he's. I think he's either the second biggest favorite or the biggest favorite on the slate. And I know he stuck out to me as well because, the ownership isn't probably going to be as high as it would be because he's up to 8,100. But he's got, like you said, I'm not sure if you said, he's got a really good strikeout rate on the year. The walk rate is scary, but at the same time, I mean, going up against the Pirates, it's pretty much a dream matchup. So I don't have what his ownership is right in front of me, but it's definitely going to be lower than Heaney. And I think that the price with that big a favorite, I definitely feel like you're taking a little bit of variance in with some of his like the walk rate being up there, but I really like him in tournaments too. That was probably the pitcher I would have brought up eventually as well when I could have found him. But definitely like if we're talking about pivots, I mean the thing is like going up from Heaney too is probably going to get you lower ownership than going down on him on some of these players. So.
And it's a fairly natural price pivot over on DK. It's only a $200 difference between the two pitchers, and you're gaining. Like I said, he's half his own. So I think that's a good pivot if you're looking for a different SP2. It's not a big secret. I mean, he's still going to be 18% owned. He's not. You can look at like Kyle Hendricks, really low ownership. Dustin May, but then you're paying up, like you said, you're paying up to be different, paying up to be contrarian with some of those guys. Also, very good chance of success with some of those guys. So I would look into that tier as well. Burns is interesting. The matchup against the Pirates is tremendous. Not a ton of swing and miss in the Pirates lineup, which would be the one thing that maybe I would take a look at with him. But I think we can definitely get away with it. He's good enough to generate that on his own. So not really something I would worry about.
Yeah, when you're talking about ownership, Burns' ownership is just 2% more than Lance McCullers Jr., which we talked on the strategy show this morning. Greg talked a lot about this. That's a particular matchup that in the Houston game that he didn't like either pitcher in that matchup.
I would kind of agree with that. I was surprised that McCullers Jr. was trending that big. Like the K rate isn't as good. I mean, I know he's been up and down and stuff like that, but it does seem like a lot of ownership for a guy who's been a little bit all over the place, obviously coming off like surgery as well. And he's had issues with that. It's not really an easy matchup against the Athletics either. I mean, that like righties have a pretty good like WOBA against them lifetime. And I mean, Yeah, I mean, it's like it's not a good matchup. He's been really inconsistent. The Astros aren't even like big favorites or anything like that. So that's probably going to be a fade for me. I mean, he does have upside for sure. And I maybe price is factoring in on this, especially on DK where he's under 9K. But guy, I was kind of like not really considering at all in the pitcher pool.
Yeah, so for me, McCullers is kind of in play. I'm getting a pretty decent projection on him. Going off the top starters tool, he looks pretty good as far as what Alex is getting for him. I didn't expect to like the spot for him, just looking things over when it came out and when I was trying to figure out what the matchups were going to be and everything with the chaos. There's a good amount of swing and miss. There's a good amount of strikeouts in like the heart of this Oakland order with a lot of their key hitters. I think he can get over the top on them, and he's only 7,800 on FanDuel, which I really like. If you can get a picture of his general quality, despite the matchup, I'm willing to do that in a fair share of my lineups with him because I think we're getting a stud pitcher at a discount that works well with a lot lot of the other good stats.
Definitely like going with him in like the single pitcher mode more because it's kind of like a boom or bust, right? And like you said, he's so much cheaper. So definitely would like him more over on FanDuel, yeah.
Yeah, he's not going to shoot an otherwise good lineup in the foot as a second. It does fail, so.
When we were doing the strategy show earlier today, one of the pitchers we were kind of wondering where his ownership could land based on what he did in his debut was Tristan McKenzie of the Indians. Obviously you look at his salary, pretty much, 6,600 on DK, 8,700 on FanDuel. So you got to pay for him up a little bit on FanDuel. Are you buying the hype after one start with him?
Yeah, I was buying it going in. I talked him up a little bit that day, and I think I ended up with like 3 shares out of 150 lineups of him and was kicking myself all night for missing probably my one opportunity to win with him super cheap. But he's a pitcher I've been all over for a few years. I had him in my Dynasty League that I mention all the time. So I love this kid, love his pedigree. Brings a heavy
fastball.
He's got a wipeout curveball, 50% whiff on the curve in that game in his debut. You can't really argue with 10 strikeouts, 2 hits over 6 innings in the major league debut. Just a dynamite kid, high 20 strikeout rate, cracked 30% strikeout rate in the minors a couple times. So I absolutely love him. Had a low walk rate through the minors. I think he can deal pretty well with this Cards lineup. There's a fair amount of strikeouts, a lot of guys in like the 25% strikeout range and upward of that. There's some good bats here. Make no mistake. They can definitely get to a rookie. I'm not selling too hard. But 8,700, the price is way up on FanDuel, makes him more difficult to get to when we don't fully trust it. 66 as an SP2 on DK, I think he's going to be super popular at that price tag, and I think the top starters tool bears that out. I think he's probably worth eating some of that chalk, but I think I'd probably be under the mark we got him at.
Yeah, definitely tempting play for under 7K if you're going, for a cheap SP2 or whatever, or just going with a different strategy. The Cardinals don't have like a ton of good left-handed bats that seem like they could hurt them too. It's definitely not a great matchup or anything like that, but really, really tempting. St. Louis low run total I'm getting here. Last time I pegged him at like 10% ownership, so I don't know if that's changed. That was like way earlier in the day, but I don't think you have to worry about that. Obviously, he projects more as just like a pure GPP play, but for under 7K, I mean, just looking at the other options.
So there's probably as you're looking, think of him on DK at 36% ownership because that's his last as of my last update. That was
okay, yeah. So again,
so he's up there.
That was early in the day, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Things change.
No, it does, and changing the projections. Alex does such a good job with it, but and you should head over to the site to do that to check them out if you haven't already. But just looking at under 7K on DK, I'm not shocked to hear that he's getting up there. So expect him to be a chalky pick in tournaments. At the same time, I like the matchup. I mean, it's a good park and all that. I mean, the Indians are small faves, but I think that the Indians bats could definitely give them a lot of support tonight. So another good performance wouldn't surprise me for sure.
Yeah, and I think at that mid-6 range on DK, I don't like any of the other options. I like him better than Duffy. I like him better than Holland, Anderson, Sixto, Perez. So I think he's the best option in that price tier for sure.
Yeah, Duffy is interesting too for similar reasons, but I agree. I mean, it's a better spot it's a less scary spot.
Yeah. Yeah. And Duffy drawing about a quarter of the ownership, so that is another natural price pivot, only 100 more over there. Tougher matchup for my money anyway against the White Sox for sure. But, definitely getting an ownership edge over Tristan there.
Yeah.
Of course, this is MLB Live Before Lock here on Friday afternoon, August the 28th. As we have got today's show is sponsored by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, the most trusted name in fantasy sports. They now include CSV edit and upload features when you are looking to play those multiple lineups. Make better choices. Choose Yahoo Daily Fantasy. Speaking of Yahoo, Zack Gallen, $38. Terry, let's start with you, man. What's your thoughts on him on Yahoo?
That sounds like a pretty good price over there. Would you say Scherzer was like 57? So we're saving a handful of bucks off of the top guy, and that's Alex's number 2. So I like Gallen. I think it's a very good spot for him against San Francisco. Overall, he's a pretty good pitcher and is pitching very well so far this year. Just looking at his StatCast numbers, 74th percentile in exit velo, 71st in hard hit rate. He's 83rd in xWOBA, so very, very strong. 33 to 37% whiff on his cutter, his change, and his curveball so far this year. 28.9% overall strikeout rate for his career. 10.1% walk. We'd like to see that come down. He puts a few too many guys on base from time to time, but overall, I think in this matchup against that lineup, I think we can definitely work with that over on Yahoo.
It sounds like a way better play over on Yahoo. I mean, if you're going to, you're going to get a lot of low ownership on DK and probably the other sides off the non-Scherzer top pitchers tonight. So I think Gallen is probably the dude I feel most comfortable switching to. I mean, I wouldn't even say maybe. I would definitely feel like if you're going to pivot off Scherzer or something at the top, Gallen is the guy. I mean, San Francisco's 3.7 team total. He's a talented pitcher, and the park matchup isn't even that bad for him as well. So we're not getting a discount or anything. It's not really like a super value play. But again, I mean, sometimes paying up for low ownership in GPPs, as we all know, is really the way that you can win GPPs essentially. So did well against San Francisco. I shouldn't say didn't do well, but did okay even in a loss against San Francisco in the last time out. I would expect him to, if he can put up 19 points in a loss, he should be able to do better than that tonight. So again, you're looking for high upside spots for a pitcher. It doesn't get much better in this matchup. So yeah, if you can get a discount on him on another site, absolutely. DK probably just more of like a guy you might want to mix into like secondary GPP lineups just because of the ownership.
Of course, I want to let everyone know about a giveaway we have going on right now over our Twitter handle at Awesemo_com, where you can win a month of Awesemo Plus MLB access. All you got to do is reply to the pinned tweet with your prediction of which team scores the most runs tonight and follow the instructions on the graphic to make sure you're eligible. So it's a way for you to win a month of Awesemo Plus MLB access. Of course, if you're not following us on Twitter, do that right now at Awesemo_com. Of course, be sure to smash that like button right here on YouTube as we break down all these games. I want to bring up one other pitcher in terms of this, and that is Zack Wheeler, who was really high, but that's not on the main slate. For some reason, I had a little bit on the main slate. That's not on the main slate, so we won't bring that one up. But let's talk about stacks. I guess let's go to everyone's favorite stack: Colorado Padres, Coors Field. I know everyone's kind of wondering how are we stacking this game.
Just play it all.
just real quick, unless something changed, that game is on the FanDuel main slate.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on FanDuel?
You threw me off. Yeah. Sorry, I missed your question because I was looking for that. Going back to Wheeler real quick, it's a really tricky spot, but I think it's not bad. On FanDuel, you can roll it out. He's not getting much ownership at all. He's the 4th ranked starter on Alex's list. Tricky spot. It's going to be tough for him, but he's a good pitcher. And I mean, there's pedigree here, and he's pitching well this season. So far this year, he's only 15.8% strikeouts, but he's limiting quality contact extremely, extremely well. Keeping the ball on the ground. He's throwing hard, limiting barrels, 91st percentile in barrels allowed, 92nd percentile in exit velocity, 98th in hard hit rate. So he's doing really well here. Overall, 22.5% strikeout for his career. Keeps the ball in the yard, 0.89 home run per 9. So I think he's a pitcher that we can utilize at that low ownership. It's a pay up to be different spot for sure. But I think against Atlanta, you can do it. There's some strikeouts available there. They're dangerous. Again, they can hang a bendy number on them for sure, but I think we can get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you're going to pivot off someone. I'd probably prefer Gallen, but realistically, Wheeler's played really well, so I think both of them are in play for that. Again, they're not someone I would put in a main lineup probably, but absolutely, like they should be in play. I mean, the ownership on Wheeler last time I projected was like well in the single digits. So,
well, let's see here. Because he was. I know he wasn't coming up at the top of my list, so.
Yeah, my last update, he was around in the pitcher tool. He's around 2% on FanDuel and 5% on DK. Yeah, so I mean, far away on both sites. He's the fourth ranked guy on both.
Yeah, the latest update we got. 4.5% on DK. You look at the pitchers that are right, are right above him. Ryan Yarbrough, 8.4%, McCullers, and so on and so forth. So yeah, but in terms of that stack in Colorado, obviously everyone's going to look at Coors Field. Padres, Manny Machado. I mean, unbelievable what he has done over the last 10 days or so. I mentioned this stat earlier today. His game on August the 18th. He got 10 DK points. That's the lowest score he has had on DK since August the 18th.
Not bad. Manny reminding everybody of the player that he really is. I think he slipped off the radar a little bit the last couple of years out in San Diego, but he's a superstar. And he's playing like it's 294, 382, 635 slash so far this year, 11 home runs, 27 runs and 27 ribbies. He's even stolen 3 bags. So absolutely love the hitter. Great spot. I think you can stack the heck out of both sides in this game. The one concern stacking the pod side would be Freeland with his ground ball ability. He's pretty darn good at inducing the ground ball, 59.4% so far this year in 2020, and he's induced 10 double play grounders, which was part of the little blurb on MLB.com. He's all last year when he was struggling, he was only 12 ground ball double plays for the year, and this year he's already up to 10 in a very limited sample. So he's really doing well keeping the ball on the ground, which is the key to his pitching. But that said, I think this Padres lineup, we've seen him get to basically everybody this year. I don't think they're going to have much problem. I think we can ride the Coors effect and ride those bats a little bit. And Davies on the other side, I expect to struggle, so I would definitely hit the Rockies stack.
Yeah, and to that point, Freeland definitely a little bit of a scary matchup for the Padres hitters. I mean, I think it definitely gives a lot of credence to fading them tonight because the ownership just gives the ownership again going to be through the roof. Nothing to do with the matchup or hitters or anything. But it's a good point. I mean, he doesn't have a big strikeout rate. It's not like he's in play to use, but he hasn't walked many people. He's got a great ground ball rate. Like it's not really the kind of pitcher you want to see for like a stack that's going to be that chalky. Obviously, it's cooler, so it's going to take away some of that. But I'm really looking to the other side. I like it when the Rockies are at home and the other team just gets all the ownership. People just kind of forget that like the Rockies are the Rockies. Story's probably going to be lower on too because Tatis and Machado are going to take up all the ownership. So should have a good matchup for the lefties as well. Again, from you're thinking about GPP. I mean, the left-handed bats here for the Rockies should be in really good spots. So maybe paying up for them getting low ownership. Asked about how are you going to go about stacking it. I would really go after the lower owned players on the Rockies here. They have the better pitching matchup. They're still going to be in Coors just like everybody else. So it's obviously scary, but this is just what happens in Coors nights. I mean, you get such leverage if you fade the really popular Coors stack, and obviously your night's over if it hits. So,
in terms of go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, just in terms of what we're looking at with some of the individual ownership within that stack, it's a great point, Geoff, because a lot of times people see the top ownership in the top stacks tool and just be like, well, that seems too high owned. But if you look to a couple different hitters and just try and mix and match a little bit, you can still play Story and Arenado as part of a stack. And then just toss in, I mean, right now on DK, Charlie Blackmon is 4.7%, Danny Murphy's 2.9%. Those are two excellent hitters. You can work those guys in from the middle of the lineup. You don't even have to go down to a Sam Hilliard or Tony Walters at 0.3% ownership to get different with it. Same thing on FanDuel with the same hitters. All the ownership is really focused on the three guys in the middle of the lineup from Story, Arenado, and where's the third one? Kemp there. So, I mean, you can get different. Actually, on FanDuel, Kemp's only 0.3%. So there's a lot of ownership opportunity within that Colorado stack. They're playing at Coors too, like you said. So I like that spot. And they're going up against the worst pitcher with an arsenal that doesn't play well for Coors. So I think we can definitely attack the Rocky stack.
So there's another pitcher that I'm going to attack tonight. Give me a Milwaukee Brewers stack going up against Derek Holland.
For sure. Yeah, that's a killer spot. We've seen Holland struggle, and I'll click over to him. But, yeah, somebody asked me if I was on that stack earlier, and I absolutely, with a bullet, that one is in my bag of tricks for tonight. Holland sitting second percentile in exit velo, second percentile in hard hit rate, 13th in xWOBA, 11th in barrels allowed. Over the last 3 years, he's been 22, 23% strikeout rate, but just not a good pitcher. He allowed 20 home runs in 84 innings last year, 1.60 home run per nine for his career to righty hitters. That's 191 of his 209 career home runs allowed have been to righties. So just somebody we could absolutely roll some of those right-handed killer bats on the Brewers with. I even like a Jed Jerko tonight, hitting third, getting a good power rating on him. He's only 2,200 over on FanDuel. 4K on DraftKings is a bit of a price to pay for a Jed Jerko, but I think we can make it work. And he's only 7.1% ownership on DK because of that. He's trending for about double the ownership on FanDuel because of the low price there. But yeah, Avi Garcia, Kiston Hira, I think we can get to a lot of these Brewers bats.
Yeah, Brewers are a good stack. I mean, it's a little bit expensive for Gurko, but Ryan Braun. I love the fact they're just stacking righties here. I mean, this is a really good spot. So the only guy you really have to be up for is Hira at second base there, and he's batting second. But I really like the stack too. I mean, got a little bit of exposure to them here. They're easy to fit in. The ownership's not going to be big. I don't have their stack ownership right up, but I'd be guessing that. Oops, that's not it. I'd be guessing anyways that they're not going to be up in the top. They're sitting like pretty low. I lied actually. They're up there in ownership percentage. They're in like the top three, but they're they're easy to fit in. You can mix and match. You can go like top four easy, and it's just a really good spot against Holland. So Brewers definitely in play for me. Love the matchup.
Yeah, and a couple guys in that Brewers stack on DK too. You get a little bit of position flex with Urias and Jerko up there, so you can mix and match them and put them in different spots to get the different constructions than the field. So good option.
Yeah, a couple of questions we got in here on Slack. One of us, we could talk about the weather for Coors tonight.
Ooh. Yeah, I saw something was coming through. Coors generally rides out weather pretty well. I think that was even in the tweet that I read, so I might just be stealing somebody's point there. But as far as I don't remember Coors scratching for weather all that frequently over the years, so keep an eye on it, obviously, as we go into lock. Do we have anything current as far as percentage of precipitation?
So I'm just looking at the weather for Denver tonight. So you've got basically 6 p.m., 25% chance of rain. There's 15% the rest of the night, but a cloudy forecast.
Sounds like a spot we can ride. I think we can put our hitters into our lineups there. We're not playing the pitchers anyway for the most part and not really sweat it.
Yeah,
maybe they get some rain and delay to come back and play the rest of the game.
Also hearing got mentioned here that Odor and Zunino have been scratched today.
Oh, Odor too. I saw Zunino. I hadn't seen Odor too.
Yeah.
I'm taking an interesting bet at the end of that race stack. Not that he makes contact all that often, but when he does, the ball tends to travel.
Someone had actually asked about what you guys' thoughts were on a race stack.
I was getting some when I was crunching on FanDuel. A lot to do with their pricing, but I do like the matchup. I'm going against Sixto. Sixto's a very high-end prospect, number one in the Marlins system, but I'm not sure we can trust him quite yet. He's, I think this is his debut, or this is his second appearance. He pitched 5 innings, struck out 19.1% of the hitters that he faced. But we're talking about a rookie here, and we're talking about a lot of quality in that Rays lineup and a lot of lefty quality they can throw at him. Getting very good home run marks on Meadows, Lowy, Choi. Yoshi Tatsugo, even like a Manny Margot in that lineup. So I think there are different things we can build and put together with that. And I like some of the position flex in a guy like Lowy, a guy like even a Joey Wendell in there. Don't get a great projection for him, but position flex on DK, not that expensive, and only 2,100 at shortstop on FanDuel. So I think we can work with some of those raised bats for sure.
Yeah, they grade out as one of the best value stacks, it looks like, on Awesemo. So definitely, like, there is a lot of home run potential there too. And I think people are just scared off because everyone, is like Sanchez, is a good prospect. So I mean, people generally just say, okay, well, I just avoid it. But like, it's not really the greatest matchup for him. Like you said, there's a lot of lefties there on that Terry just went over that are all in kind of good spots for home runs. So Zanino's out. He actually would have been had kind of a nice target there, just for like the home run, obviously all or nothing. But definitely a stack that is projecting out with like low ownership and pretty good just value potential. So. Yeah, I'm in on that. I would be anyways, if you're targeting someone, if you're going for like a low-owned stack. Again, just, pricing wise, Lowe's up there, but like Choi is really cheap. So you could even just do one-offs with some of these guys. I like that as well.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of Meadows and a lot of Lowy one-offs, so I was definitely getting that and some Choi as well over on FanDuel. Again, it's very, very price-driven with how much they're coming up. But I like the spot almost as equal as I like the value. So I would definitely be getting to this stack. And it makes a lot of the things we want to do with the pricier bats and with the Max Scherzers of the world work. So this is one that's definitely in play for me. Just looking at Sixto, he is a killer prospect. He's got in the traditional scouting, he's got a 60 grade fastball, a 70 grade changeup, which is just dynamite. He can touch 100 miles an hour with the fastball. He's generally working like 96 to 98. Wipeout slider, he was around 43% strike. 43% with the slider in his debut. So very, very good pitcher. But just a kid, I'm typically willing to attack even the high-end rookies with bats until I really become afraid of them. And that hasn't happened here yet.
Yeah, he won't be super high owned, it doesn't look like, but he will have a little bit of ownership. He is interesting, especially on DK under 6K. So, but I don't have the totals right in front of me. But again, yeah. Good prospect. It's just, I don't think you should be, people just tend to shy away from these spots as soon as they hear good prospect. It's like, I just shouldn't roster any bats, but I think it's absolutely a good spot for the Tampa bats.
What about a Philly stack going up against the Braves?
Definitely for me, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start off. McCutchen definitely perhaps the best play on the slate just from a pure value perspective for me, leading off. But, going up against Erlin, he's had a couple okay starts, but it's just such a good matchup for most of these guys. Remolto's going to get a lot of ownership. That's probably someone. McCutchen probably will too, but there's value at the bottom of the stack too. This is the spot I kind of like for. You can go Baumquin, McCutchen for a bottom of the order stack. I like that, but you can kind of work it both ways too. I'm just projecting out here with the stack ownership. I think they're probably going to be up there in time. Yeah, they're going to be one of the top three as well. But so maybe you go you can go cheap here to get a little bit different. But I really don't even mind eating the chalk here. It's a good spot.
Yeah. The Phillies were. I wrote everything this morning because of the way that the sites released their slate, so it was all in one column. But they were my chalky stack of the day. They would have been my overnight quick hits column. And I think there's one spot in here where we can pick off something very interesting ownership wise. Is $6,000 Bryce Harper on DK? He's only trending at 5% or below ownership. So if you're willing to pay up and eat that if you're willing to pay up and eat that salary, that's immediately making your Philly stack different while putting their best power hitter into your lineup. So I really like doing that with this team. You're going to have to get creative with what else you're doing with either this stack or doing with your pitchers, your second stack. But I think we can easily make that work. He's only 4,300 on FanDuel, which is funny. His ownership's not really trending that high over there, which is surprising. So he would be a big part of my stacks over there. Ultimately, they're not really trending for a ton of ownership outside of McCutchen and Hoskins on FanDuel. So I think we could lot with that stack. The way I wrote it up included Baum, and I did the wraparound thing too. I went with Baum and then McCutchen, who is just one of my favorite DFS plays in general. He's just way too cheap on both sites. And he's a tremendous player, both getting on base and hitting gap power, home run power. So really love McCutchen. He's going to be highly owned, but a lot of different things we can do here.
In terms of some stacks that just looking kind of our ownership on stacks, say a team like, Cleveland, is that a stack you are looking at?
That's always a stack I'm looking at. That was a loaded question.
I just looked over. I look at the ownership percentage on the Cleveland stack. I'm like, wow, that's pretty low.
Yeah, that was my reaction too when I was looking for a team to write about for the Stack Slants part of the column, and they made it in there. So definitely, I think that's a quality matchup. And whoops, just clicked to the wrong one there. Going up against Ponce de Leon, big time strikeout rate for that pitcher, but he's got very little command, very little control. He's walking currently 17.9% of hitters over his 12 innings pitched. So he's just throwing the ball all over the place. Very Nuke Lelouch-like, as Emac would put it. Tremendous strikeout ability, like I said. And if he ever harnesses it, he's going to be a deadly kind of pitcher. But through his minor league career, even he was 10 to 12% walk rate pretty much every year. For his major league career, he's 25.6% walk, 25.6% strikeout, 12.5 walk. He's like the new Robbie Ray. He's got a 44% whiff rate on his cutter. When it's in the zone, when he's throwing strikes, he can be pretty deadly. But I think this is a good spot for these Indians. You're paying a discount for most of these bats on FanDuel. The top bats on DK get a little bit into the 5K, a little bit pricey-ish range. But I love what we can do. We've talked about it a bunch of times, just going around the horn in the infield with these bats up top. They're striking out a little bit more against right-handed hitters this year than we usually see. I think the team rate was around 24% against right-handed hitters. Thanks to Lofty for bringing that one up to me the other day. That's important. So Ponce de Leon could put up a decent start here, but I really, really favor the bats, and I love the power in like a Fran Mill, Francisco Lindor, a Santana. I think there's just a lot of quality here.
Yeah, Cleveland always, when they're under-owned, is definitely in play. 100% agree. I don't have them rated out super great or anything like that. Maybe just, again, giving a little bit too much credit to the pitcher. But I do have him rated too as a reverse splits guy. So, I mean, I think Reyes is really interesting from the right. He's only 4,200. I think I have him here as the best, pretty much just kind of the best value, pure value. So if I was going to target one person, it would probably be Reyes from this one. But yeah, just from a stacking perspective, Cleveland definitely rates out well in all the tools I've seen in projections I've seen today, just with upside and compared to their ownership. So nothing really bad to say. I guess the only other thing is it's not like a great park for them, St. Louis, but it's kind of minor, especially when you're talking about the ownership kind of leverage that you're getting. So Ray is definitely the kind of the guy that popped out for me there. Though, if you're going for just looking to pick someone from this game.
Another stat question we got was about the Nationals.
That's it. What, are people just reading my article and then asking us questions about it? That was the other thing.
Well, look, I'm just looking to my left and I see the questions.
Good questions, guys. You're all over the right stacks today. Love the Nats today. Martin Perez, I think the last time we talked, Jace, I said I wasn't going to pick on him anymore, but it's a pitcher we can pick on. I don't care. I think he's not a good pitcher, and the numbers kind of bear it out. Oops, that's not the right guy. He is over a 5.55 xFIP so far this year, 11.7% walks so far this year in his 6 starts, 31 innings. Small sample, of course, but that's kind of the pitcher that he is. He's done a decent job limiting exit velo and hard hit rate. That's his big calling card right now. But in general, he's just not a great pitcher. Strikeouts, 14.8% strikeout rate for his career. Not a guy who's going to sit people down with the whiffs. Just doesn't really offer much here. xWOBA is in the 43rd percentile on xWOBA, 25th percentile strikeout rate. And there's just a ton of quality in the Nats. We know about Trey Turner and Juan Soto up top. Dynamite guys. Turner steals around 40 bags a year added to his power. He's got 6 home runs so far on the year. Soto's got 8 home runs so far on the year. They're just both crushing it. We know that Howie Kendrick has better career splits against lefty pitchers for his entire lifetime. Asdrubal Cabrera's got a ton of quality. Kurt Suzuki is a catcher that I really like. Drawing a little bit more ownership than I was hoping for on DK. I was hoping we could get away with a sneaky catcher play in the middle of that stack, but he's only around 16%. So I think we can still play that over on DK for only $4,000. And then my guy, Victor Robles from the bottom of this lineup. Love him as a wraparound play. Solid bat, good power and good speed.
Yeah. I mean, all these guys, you went through the whole lineup because basically they should all be in play here. I mean, Perez feels like he's just due. I mean, he has had like one bad game, but I mean, he feels like he's due for like a couple for sure. And I definitely like, again, like this is another team where I definitely like targeting the end of the order for value too. I mean, Taylor, Robles, I don't know, you can throw them with Trey Turner if you want, but
I think Harrison in there. Harrison, like a DK option with multi-position.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's a good call. Yeah, second base.
Is he in play for you at only what, 3,400 and like super low ownership in there? I think he's in play for me.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I mean, 1 to 9, I would highly consider. I mean, all these bats. I mean, you're not even getting like high. I'm just looking at DK salaries, obviously, but you're not even getting like high salaries on a guy like Kendrick or Harrison or something, or obviously the two at the bottom of the lineup. So multiple ways you can play this. They are projecting like with a little bit of ownership, but they're not as chalky as some of the other ones we're talking about either. And this is a big slate. Just feels like people are just, this is just one that people might just kind of forget about. And I could see it going lower owned than we have it projected to. This is definitely one of those spots. Even Suzuki, I'm kind of surprised he was up there that much, but I guess he's in a pretty good spot. So definitely another one you can think about. I think that if I was considering it versus Philly, I'd probably rather pay up for Philly's like top 4 or 5, just because I feel like they have a little bit more upside. But I do like the value at the bottom of the lineup a little bit better. So just another stack you can consider that you should get lower ownership on them than Philly too. So
yeah. Cool. Yeah, I agree on all those counts. And just real quick, just because I'm noticing it, just ownership-wise on DK, if you start your stack with Juan Soto at paying up for him at 5,900, and then click on Asdrubal Cabrera, who is at a decent price hitting cleanup and are only drawing around 5% ownership, eligible at first and third, you're already starting with 2 players under 5% ownership in the middle of the stack, 2 of their better hitters. I really like that as a starting point, and then connect whatever you want to it, basically.
And of course, you want to get access to those ownership projections, player projections, and the top pitchers tool. Go over to awesemo.com/join to get an Awesemo Plus MLB weekly pass for $15.95. This will give you access to all of those tools that I just mentioned there. Get your pass today, awesemo.com/join. One of the questions I got over in Slack was about a Royals stack.
Ooh, that might be getting a little bit too dicey for me.
Yeah, I was actually getting a decent projection on Ronaldo, which really surprised me. It's not something I'm comfortable with at all. I'm surprised I'm even bringing it up because I think it's just something weird in my model. But it was suppressing the Royals stack for me a lot in Cruncher when I was running it because I was getting a fair amount of Ronaldo. But I am getting decent projections on them overall too. So it's kind of a spot where if I was really sitting there building 150 lineups, I would probably have a little bit of both sides of this one. Getting fairly good home run projections, very good for Soler. And then the 3 hitters around him in Dozier, O'Hearn, and Franco, all pretty good, right around 10 in my model. So like that little core as a stack is both inexpensive and pretty decent little projection on them here. So again, I would probably roll out a little bit of both sides. Ronaldo is super cheap on both sides. If you want a total dice roll of a starter that I have no faith in, don't blame me if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, right. I'm honestly, I feel almost exactly the same. The middle there is actually nice for value. So I'll take back a little what I said. There is some like Solar for sure. I mean, in Merrifield, you could even go like 1 through 5 here because Merrifield's ownership probably going to be like nothing tonight. Lopez really can get like wild too. So obviously, that
171 home run per 9 last year for him, so he can give up the home run. He can put a lot of guys on base when he does it. So.
He can do it all for you if you go with the rest of that. So, I definitely a spot too where you can go for a little bit of salary relief. I wouldn't go like super deep or anything, probably past Franco, but Yeah, you should get low ownership, and it might be a spot where you just go with like a 2-man stack even or something just to grab some. But just trying to say, yeah, decent team total too. I mean, 4.52 team total, so it's okay. I mean, we do have a slate with like a lot of teams over 5, so it's a little bit of a red flag. But again, the matchup is pretty good here, so.
I think the only game that I think there's only really 2 games we really haven't touched on: the Cubs and the Reds, and the Dodgers and the Rangers.
Yeah, Cubs are definitely in play. They're lefty bats. Really like Schwarber. Well, really just like all the lefties. I mean, Rizzo, Happ, Schwarber tonight. So they're definitely another one of those things I would be targeting here. I mean. Good strikeout rate from Mail, but really bad walk rate as well. And I have him listed as, just like target lefties versus him. And it's a great park too in Cincinnati. So this is a spot I would definitely be all over. I kind of like, and I'll say one thing. I kind of like Caratini too as catchers. I know we were talking about catchers before, but 3,500. He's only in the 8 spot, which kind of sucks, but that's okay. Like that's an okay salary for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good call. I like that. Only 3,500. Get a little bit sneaky with a guy. You could put him with like a Kipnis down there, even wrap it around to the top and do a weird little like Caratini, Kipnis, Happ, Rizzo, Baez 5-man, something like that. Could be very, very different. A lot of quality in it, and fills a couple of those mandatory positions. So I don't hate that at all. That's a good call.
Someone had asked if they're crazy for thinking a Marlins stack.
I mean, you're never completely crazy for thinking something can work in baseball. It's baseball, right? The baseball gods do wacky things. It wouldn't be my play. It doesn't look like it's Alex's play. Ranked last in stacks on FanDuel, 3rd to the bottom on DK. Only a 1.5% chance of being a top 2 stack over on DK. So not the spot for me. But if you can justify it, if there's some bats that you like and you have a good reason for doing it and it's helping you get to other good things, there's always a reason. You can always find reasons to build with teams, and wacky things happen in baseball.
Yeah. I mean, I just have, as far as Marlins go, I just have not good against lefties here. Most of their stats kind of saying that. I mean, Yarbrough, but I mean, it's not like we're talking about, Clayton Kershaw here. I mean, Yarbrough is okay, but it's like Terry said. I mean, it's baseball. You're getting lower ownership on a stack. Like minuscule ownership on a stack, kind of always a little bit intriguing, right? So I don't have anyone like specific that I would bring up there. I mean,
just looking at it, we've got.
Brian Anderson. Brian Anderson at 3,400 though. I mean, is pretty much in play. Like we said. I mean, when you're getting a guy like that, I think with that cheap in the 3rd spot, sure.
Yeah, and under 2% ownership for Anderson. Just looking on the FanDuel side of things. The only hitters priced above 3K are Johnny VR hitting 5th and Miguel Rojas hitting 9th. They're 3,000 and 3,200 respectively. So there's some bananas pricing on FanDuel. You can get to all of these guys. Yarbs is a decent pitcher. He's not great. He's a mid-tier kind of a pitcher, league average-ish. 20.1% strikeout for his career. He throws his fastball sinker 21% of the time. Gets 41% whiff on his change this year. 144 innings as a starter. He's got a 4.42 ERA. Only a 1.06 home run per 9, so he keeps the ball in the yard a little bit, and that's really his calling card so far this season. He's limiting exit velo, limiting hard hit rate, but everything else, he's not a great strikeout option. It's only the 23rd percentile in xWOBA, so it's a pitcher you can definitely go after. So there's your argument if you're stacking him and somebody's criticizing.
And I mean, like the Royals, Marlins, like these are kind of stacks too. Like if you're going to go contrarian and say go like Scherzer and Gallen and just pay up for both your pitchers. I mean, these are the kind of stacks you target, right? So that's generally what I do when I pay up for pitching and try and get super contrarian like that. Anyways, that's kind of what I would do. So that I would put those kind of stacks kind of in that realm. I wouldn't consider them in like a main lineup again, but it's baseball. I mean, it's these guys are kind of always in play. We're talking about stacks. We're just trying to hit, the correct kind of combo and get exposure to as much of it as that looks good as we can. So.
Looking at ownership, and I know someone had asked this question a little earlier, so we'll get to it now. Luis Urias is leading off for the Brewers, and we have got him at 24% ownership. What's your guys' take on him in this spot?
So I think he's an affordable leadoff hitter. That's about the crux of what he brings to the table for us. You basically summed up exactly what he gives you up there. He's cheap, and he's not going to probably not going to produce much for us, but he's leading off. He's going to see 5-6 plate appearances against a smash spot of a pitcher as part of a dynamic stack that we really like. So I think we can play him. I wouldn't use him as like a one-off, but as part of a stack, yeah, I think he's definitely in play and probably mandatory in more stacks than he's not going to be in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just trying to update my ownerships here just to see. Yeah, up to 25%. Looks like on DK. That it's a little surprising, but it's not surprising. He's 3K. He's leading off the Milwaukee, obviously a semi-popular stack, but probably a player. Honestly, if you're doing a Milwaukee stack, I just leave him out personally. It's cheap. Yeah, it lets you get other places, but I think for me, that would probably be just someone I would just leave out of a Milwaukee stack, and it just gives you ability to just be a little bit more contrarian in that. Generally you, especially with like a non-big home run guy who's probably not going to break the slate on himself. He could just because he's 3K, I guess, but probably not going to do that. Those are the kind of guys I generally will leave out, and then just look for like a lower owned play at the same price, but maybe with someone with power again. That can just kind of do it on their own. So that's kind of my take on him. I'm not surprised. It's not really bad or anything just because of his price and he's in a good spot, but probably a player I would leave out of that stack. That's just my take.
Yeah, and ultimately, if you are rolling him out there, you're looking for him to act as a table setter for the hitters behind him.
For sure.
And he's 362 on base this year. Only 47 plate appearances, so it's not a completely reliable number. But just looking, he's got multi-position eligibility, right? He's second and third base. So one way to maybe, if you're gonna deploy him, is to use him, and in those lineups, keep Hira out of that stack, because Hira plays second base also. So you either deploy Urias at second base and roll a big third baseman from your other stack, or deploy Urias at third base and roll a big second baseman from your other stack, and you're taking Hira out of it. It's just going to be a weird, different construction that not a lot of people will do with that. It's nowhere near the way I would prefer to deploy this team, but that's a way, if you wanted to build him into some of your stacks, that you could get kind of funky and different with it. Maybe use him at second and Jerko at third, do some different things with that. That would be kind of how I would play around with that, but it wouldn't be like a big lion's share of my lineups that I would do that. I definitely want more Kiston Hira than Luis Urias.
We got a question related to the weather in Cincinnati, and it don't look good, fellas. We have got a 65% chance of rain in the 8 o'clock hour, 85% in the 9 o'clock hour, 45%, and it is scattered thunderstorms or just straight up thunderstorms. So definitely a little buyer beware if you're looking to roster the Reds and the Cubs.
Yeah, okay. Take back everything I said about the Cubs hitters. Honestly, that is probably a little bit too much of a red flag for me to roll the dice with. And I'm someone who doesn't mind rolling the dice in those spots. So it does look a little dicey. I got it up here. Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, once we see a trend up into that range of likelihood, we're really, really playing with fire at that point. We're playing with water, I guess, at that
especially
point. It's getting ugly.
Especially this year. So
that's for sure.
Someone who joined the show late, we did talk about McKenzie a little earlier, but kind of if you guys can rehash exactly everything you said about him in this spot going tonight for the Indians.
So we're just indulging all the latecomers, huh? So I think overall we collectively agreed that we like McKenzie. He's going to be very highly owned, and we identified a couple interesting pivots for him. But overall, I think we agreed that the quality is definitely there in this kid. Trickier matchup in general, but the price is right as an SP2 on DK for sure. I think we all liked him to put up or have a good shot at least of putting up a good performance.
Yeah, not to rehash everything that was just said, but looking like a pretty good. Just grab my. Looking like a pretty good salary. At 66, obviously the big concern was just that his ownership was getting up there, right? I'm not sure if we talked about like specific pivots. I kind of like Duffy though for GPPs. Optimally though, he's like, I feel like McKenzie would be the better play. it's a good pitcher's ballpark. Again, I'm not too afraid of like anyone on the left side from the Cardinals here. I've written down they have a low team total, so everything looks good. I think the biggest scary thing is he's just a raw pitcher, and he's coming off a good performance, and people are just scared that like, oh, he can't do it again. But really, there's no reason why he can do it again if he is this good. So definitely the price is right here. Again, don't expect him to be like under-owned or anything, but for a core lineup or cash, yeah, absolutely. GPP, I'll probably roll the dice with Danny.
Yeah, and Duffy was the guy for that person who asked. Duffy was the natural pivot that we identified. So just, double stamp that one. And if you're looking for a different pitcher at that tier on DK, that's your guy.
And a question,
more likely.
Question coming from Slack related to the Padres and Rockies game. Trevor Story or Fernando Tatis?
Yeah, so I mean,
embarrassment of riches.
What's that?
That's an embarrassment of riches right there.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Again, we kind of talked about this earlier. It comes down to ownership, right? I mean, the Padres are going to be the stack to own. They're going to be the biggest, and I think Story and Arenado are going to be two guys who you can really get lower ownership on from the Rockies. I personally love to get the low-owned Rockies when they're at Coors and their opponents are chalky. I always feel like that's a good spot to roll with a Rocky stack. Kind of feels like it tonight. So again, you're looking at it. Who's the absolute better play? Probably like Tatis and Machado, but Arenado and Story, you can get lower ownership on them. And realistically, from a pitching matchup too, I know we talked about this before. What's his face? Freeland, excuse me. Not really the greatest matchup for the Padres. So.
Yeah, and that would be one of the key decision points for me is just Freeland's ability to keep the ball on the ground could limit those Padres. And you might see them win like a 6-4 game or something like that, but just not a big MLB DFS game where not a lot of balls go over the wall. There's a couple gap shots, and they just move guys around the bases against them, but don't really hit for a big, fantasy point total. I think I agree. I think I would lean into the slight ownership advantage on the Rockies side of this. It's a strong ownership advantage between the two, actually, on DK. Slighter on FanDuel, but I think I like it better on both sites. I am getting better home run numbers for both Padres when we're talking Tatis Machado or Story Arenado as a couple pairs. 9.54 and 11.11 for the Padres too, and 6.60 and 6.88 in my home run model. So little home run bonus for you guys there, but I like both sides of that one. You can't really go wrong.
Of course, we are 5 minutes away from lock. And of course, if you're watching us live, be sure to smash that like button. Let's get those likes over 150. Another question coming from Slack is in relation to a stack. And it's a stack we haven't talked about, and I don't know how often we really talk about this. Seattle Mariners.
Interesting.
So,
all right.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those, this is basically, it's just a leverage play, right? I mean, Heaney is projected to be the chalk on the slate. So whenever you have a pitcher getting up to like 50%, I mean, sure, lots of leverage against it. Lots of leverage, which is kind of nice. I don't know if I'd go with like a full Seattle stack, but I might consider like Nola maybe as my catcher. Might consider like a couple dudes. I probably wouldn't go the full way, but I definitely think that, if you're not going to play Heaney, you can look there and at least pick and choose, maybe go with like a mini stack. It does feel like a night though. I mean, like they have a dreadful team total. It's like 3.67. So it's probably too thin for me to just like dive in and just say, I'm going to do a Seattle stack, but could they get to him with a couple bombs or something? Sure. If you get the right piece of it, and then, you can just pivot off of Heaney, obviously. So that's the argument for Seattle, right? I don't really have any argument to stack against them, though.
Yeah, look, we know Heaney's a guy who over his career has been a little bit vulnerable to the home run balls, 150 home run per 9 for his career. So it's a chance that they could definitely connect with a few long balls. Overall, I don't have very good home run marks on them in my home run model. They don't project very well in Alex's model for the day. So not a stack I'm really getting to other than to attack that ownership, like you point out. He's going around 35% owned on FanDuel. I think it was around the same mark on DK. So it's definitely something where you can attack a fair amount of the field if you happen to connect with those Mariners bats going off. You don't want to roll it out in a lot of stacks, but maybe you grab some of your chalkier other stack and put it together with like 3 Mariners on FanDuel, 3 on DK, 2 on DK, and a 1 off, however you want to approach it. But maybe as a mix and match option, crazier things have happened. They're very, very cheap as well.
Of course, this is MLB Live Before Lock. A couple minutes here for Rosters Will Lock. Let you know that today's show is sponsored by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. They are the most trusted name in fantasy sports. They now include CSV Upload and CSV Edit. When you're looking to play those multiple lines, make better choices, choose Yahoo Daily Fantasy. Brady asking about the Dodgers. Obviously, you got some high-priced bats in that lineup, but what's your take on that one?
Dodgers were another team that was coming up for me when I was crunching earlier on FanDuel. They are Alex's third-ranked team on FanDuel, second on DK. And on DK, actually, with that pricing again, they've been doing this a lot lately. They're trending around half the ownership that they should. It's just difficult to get to them with how heavily they're priced up, which I like. That's how the game is supposed to be. It's not supposed to just be play whoever you want. So I think that's a good spot. If you can figure out ways to pay up for it, maybe put together a couple of those mid-tier starters over on DK that we've talked about, and then roll out a heavy Dodgers stack. I definitely like that. There's plenty of bats that we know in this lineup and trust, from Mookie and Cody Bellinger, obviously, to Corey Seager, who's just been tattooing the ball all over the place so far this year. Justin Turner, I don't dislike, especially against the lefty. Miner's a good pitcher, but not really likely to put up a great start here. And I think we can definitely attack him. I would even keep in mind like an Enrique Hernandez down at the bottom of this lineup. Very good lefty-righty numbers for his career. Not getting touched on really either site. Very affordable on both sites too. 3,900 on DK, 2,600 on FanDuel.
Yeah, coming in, it looks like around the 10th or 11th sort of highest projected on stack. So yeah, I mean, super low ownership. It's the epitome of paying up for low ownership, right? There probably is the pitching on the slate too to make it work. I mean, we've talked about a couple guys who both like under 7K. So yeah, absolutely a spot. I mean, there's a couple things working against them. Like Terry said, the pitcher's pretty good. The ballpark's not great, but from an ownership to like their chances to be like the top stack on the slate, it's actually really, really good. It's actually like a really good spot. So definitely don't hate it. Again, it's kind of like I said, if you're going to attack those like weaker stacks with like paying up for pitching, if you just pay down for pitching in both your spots, you can probably fit in the Dodgers. So it's more of a contrarian move, but I think I like that more on the slate than paying for like a crappy stack like the Mariners or the I can't remember the Marlins. I would rather like pay down for pitching on the slate, I think, and try and get the Dodgers. So.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's definitely that kind of a slate, and you can dig into those guys that we talked about. You've got McKenzie at 66; he's going to be highly owned, but whatever. And then put him together with like a McCullers at 89, a Corbin Burns at 81. Pay down at both pitcher spots. All of a sudden, you've got $3,500 extra to play with in your bats, and we can get to some of these Dodgers. And that's a spot that I love to look for. Just take everything else off the table, throw it in a bag. If I told you can have the Dodgers stack at about half of where they should be owned, you're going to take that most nights for MLB DFS. So I think that's a killer spot.
Someone had asked about Angels really liking Rendon tonight.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the Angels. It's a great spot. Rendon, Trout. Absolutely.
Yeah, Rendon's a guy I always like too. He's not a guy I ever really feel the need to have to really justify. But the Angels are looking good. They're slightly over-owned in my last update on FanDuel, but nothing that we can't play. So I don't mind that spot at all. And it looks like a good spot. Margevicius is a pitcher that I don't think really has very much quality here. Getting killer home run marks on most of the Angels' usual suspects. Trout, Rendon, Adele, Upton, and Ohtani all over 10 in my home run model here. So I like a lot of the different options. Adele still very, very inexpensive because he's still not really connecting with the ball. But I promise there's quality in that bat, you guys. You're going to see it at some point. He's very low owned, only hitting 6th in this lineup. So I think that's a good spot, and I love Rendon here for sure. Only 5.5% owned. Not even over $4,000 on FanDuel. Great spot. He's 11% owned on FanDuel, but yeah, killer spot.
And with that, fellas, we have reached a lock. So good luck to everyone. Jordan, you can start to hit that music. We'll get on out of here for this edition of MLB Live Before Lock. Of course, be here all weekend long to catch all the shows we have going on this weekend with MLB. NBA is back as well. So that's going to wrap it up for MLB Live Before Lock for this Friday afternoon on August the 28th.